Imagine the very institutions built to protect you turning their immense, unchecked power against you. Today, we're jumping right into a recently declassified, absolutely shocking chapter of American history. We are unpacking the FBI versus Martin Luther King Jr. Now, listen to this. This is a real blackmail letter urging suicide. And the crazy thing? It wasn't from some fringe hate group or a lone fanatic. No, this was sent directly to Dr. King by the FBI, complete with a secretly recorded tape. It really leaves you wondering, doesn't it? How exactly did the nation's premier law enforcement agency become the greatest enemy of a man who literally championed nonviolence? Well, in this explainer, we're going to see how unconstitutional surveillance and psychological warfare were weaponized against a civil rights icon. And it's all documented straight from the government's own declassified files.
Okay, Section 1. Target, Martin Luther King Jr. Let's get right into it.
So, there is a massive, stark contrast between the FBI's public Cold War pretext and their actual, behind-the-scenes agenda. Director J. Edgar Hoover claimed, he was just investigating whether King's associates had communist ties. But when exhaustive wiretaps turned up absolutely zero evidence of that, the FBI didn't just drop the case. Instead, they pivoted hard to digging up dirt on his personal life. King ultimately became a primary target of COINTELPRO. Now, if you're not familiar, this was a covert program operating completely outside the bounds of legitimate law enforcement. The goal here wasn't to prosecute crimes at all. It was to completely neutralize targets and essentially prevent King from unifying the masses. Right after King's legendary "I Have a Dream" speech in August 1963, FBI leadership actually circulated this shocking internal memo. They officially shifted their focus to neutralizing King as a leader, suddenly viewing him as this massive existential threat to the status quo. Moving into Section 2, wiretaps, bugs, and blackmail. The sheer escalation of this campaign is just staggering. I mean, it rapidly grew from tracking alleged communist associates to an incredibly aggressive personal crusade. By 1967, after King spoke out against the Vietnam War, the FBI actually created a specific operation targeting him under the umbrella of black nationalist hate groups. And instead of pursuing actual criminals, the FBI deployed these exhaustive, totally unconstitutional techniques just to capture compromising material. We're talking bugging his hotel rooms, tapping his home phone, and illegally intercepting communications at his own organization's offices. And this whole thing culminated in November 1964. The FBI sent King that illicitly recorded audio tape and the anonymous letter we mentioned earlier. The demand was chilling. He had exactly 34 days to commit suicide before his Nobel Peace Prize ceremony, or they would expose his private life to the entire world. And Hoover's intense hostility wasn't just kept behind closed doors either. When King rightfully criticized the FBI for failing to protect civil rights workers down in the South, Hoover publicly attacked him. He literally called him the most notorious liar in the country, cementing their absolute public adversary posture. All right, Section 3, media manipulation and smears. Check this out. The FBI drafted an internal memo to smear King's upcoming Poor People's campaign. Just 2 days later, a remarkably similar editorial appeared in the St. Louis Globe-Democrat. This is undeniable, declassified proof that the FBI was literally planting smears in cooperative newspapers right before King's death. The sheer scale of this PR war was massive. They distributed smear monographs to congressional leaders and the White House. They even tried to block universities from awarding King honorary degrees. It was a systematic, calculated effort to choke off his funding and influence. Section 4. The assassination and the investigation. Now, to their credit, following the tragic assassination, the FBI executed a brilliantly fast-paced international forensic investigation. They traced laundry marks from the crime scene all the way to Los Angeles, tracked James Earl Ray up through Canada, and arrested him in London in just 2 months. It was top-tier police work. They also offered a massive reward, which would be equivalent to over $1 million today. Hoover knew the Bureau's reputation was completely on the line here. They desperately needed to prove their competence to a highly skeptical nation that was perfectly aware of their ugly feud with King. Yet, even after capturing Ray, the FBI's blatant disregard for civil rights just persisted. Declassified files show they illegally intercepted photocopies of Ray's privileged attorney-client mail while he was in jail, and even interviewed him without reading him his Miranda rights.
Furthermore, later official reviews found some pretty deep flaws in their conspiracy investigation. They relied on simple field interviews instead of using grand juries, completely failing to adequately pursue leads regarding James Earl Ray's brothers and their suspicious activities at the time. Which brings us to Section 5, Declassified Truths and Legacy. In July 2025, over 243,000 pages of these surveillance files were fully declassified. And while they don't rewrite the fundamental facts of the assassination itself, they absolutely, undeniably confirm the staggering, oppressive scale of the government's campaign against King.
We definitely need to be clear on the facts here. Official investigations conclusively found no government role in the assassination itself. James Earl Ray was the killer. However, those exact same investigations completely condemned the FBI's prior surveillance campaign as morally reprehensible. As the 1976 Church Committee so powerfully concluded, instead of protecting King from threats, the FBI broke the law to discredit him. They basically hid behind the guise of national security to completely weaponize his private life. King endured massive, institutional attacks and still managed to change the world. But this sobering history really leaves us asking, how do we ensure the institutions meant to protect justice never again become tools of systemic oppression? Think about that for a bit, and I'll see you in the next explanation.